Trust the media, they're all full of lies. Want to know a little bit, I'll open your eyes. Live free or die. Live free or die. Live free or die. Live free or die.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hardfire Television on Brooklyn Free Speech Cable Television, Libertarian Issues in Focus. My name is Cameron Weber. I'll be your host today, and with me I have Alex Merced.
Hey, everybody.
We're lucky to have Alex on the show today. Alex is running for US Senator to represent New York. And the title of our show today is Why the People of New York Need a Libertarian Senator in Washington, D.C. So Alex is a rising star in the Libertarian Party. We met about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We'd go and set up for the Atlantic Antic Street Fair, where the Brooklyn Libertarian Party and the Manhattan Libertarian Party has shared a booth for a number of years. We get a million people showing up to this Atlantic Antic Festival, and then we give people a quiz, right? We administer a quiz to see where they sit on the political spectrum, and we find that more than half are actually libertarians, right? Isn't that
Yeah, we find actually a good amount of people. So, for example, if you've ever seen one of these politically homeless quizzes, it's basically a diamond, where basically there's right, left, but then there's also like, do you want less government, more government? So usually here in New York, what you find is people are sort of here, where so they're either on the sort of that left up to libertarian kind of framework. Yeah, and you get the random conservative here in New York City. It's Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's Brooklyn. Yeah, but you'll be representing the entire state of New York.
I will be representing the entire state of New York and speaking to everyone's values. While I'm personally a avid libertarian, I will also be representing progressives, libertarians, conservatives, in advocating for things that benefit the country as a whole.
Right. So, Alex has you've been traveling the state, shaking hands, kissing babies.
That's right, shaking hands, kissing babies. A couple weeks ago, we were
actually talking about ideas too with people, probably more than
Definitely.
just that.
I've had some interesting moments.
Oh, good. So we're lucky to have Alex on the show. What are we? We're in the last week of August. I know that because I start teaching in a week. Summer vacation's over. So we hope to run this show as much as possible up until the elections in a couple months. But also we'll be talking about timely and timeless issues. So we'll be able to continue to have this show in our inventory so people can learn more about libertarian ideas. So my first question to you, Alex, what is libertarianism exactly, and why do the people of New York deserve a libertarian senator in Washington?
Okay.
And it's kind of a...
Now, I think the simplest way to put forth libertarianism for people who don't fully know all the depth and beauty of libertarian philosophy is this. When it comes to fiscally, it's your money. It's your property.
All right.
Socially, it's your life. But at the end of the day, it's all about the golden rule. Don't do unto others what you don't want done to yourself. So if I don't want people destroying my property, I shouldn't destroy the property of others. If I don't want people taking my property, I shouldn't be taking the property of others.
Yeah.
So basically, from a moral standpoint, we just don't want other people doing things that we don't want done unto ourselves. Yep. So and that applies to government as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of the definition is there's two types of human relationships. One is coercive, the other is voluntary. And when you have the state, it's a coercive. It's at the point of a gun. Whereas libertarians believe in voluntary relationships and mutual aid and helping your neighbor, things like that.
And there's something great about voluntary relationships. One, it creates information, which we'll talk about later on. But one of the biggest things about it is that when you have a voluntary relationship, think about relationships where you have with people you care about. There's an incentive to always try to create value for that other person. Exactly. So, for example, I'm always trying to find ways to make my wife happy, because if I don't, she'll leave. Same thing, and vice versa. So there's an incentive for people to make sure that the other person wants to be part of that arrangement. When one side of that arrangement when that arrangement is forced, that incentive goes away, and thus the value
about creating value. Exactly. Value through exchange, whereas the state it transfers value. Voluntary relationships creates value.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Now, as to why
Uh-huh.
New York deserves a Libertarian senator, it doesn't. You don't have to agree with me on everything. You don't have to be a Libertarian to believe that I should be in the U.S. Senate. Because at the end of the day, I think Libertarians, progressives, and conservatives can all agree that the two-party system has become unaccountable. That the
Yeah.
Republicans are unable to hold Democrats accountable. Democrats are unable to hold Republicans accountable because it's always about the lesser of evil. It's always about these two parties just trying to convince you that they're less bad than the other guy. So having a Libertarian senator there who doesn't have all the entrenched interests and all that stuff holding them down, holding the Democrats accountable, holding the Republicans accountable, can benefit people of all ideologies who just want transparency and accountability in government,
Yeah.
regardless of our differences and what the role of government is.
Yeah, I think the bailouts of 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010 where both the Democrats and the Republicans bailed out their cronyist friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Both parties kept in central bank officials who devalued our purchasing power. So there's really not a big difference. And we've been in constant wars, I think, since Gulf War I or whatever. So the Democrats and Republicans are pretty much the same different sides of the same coin. And people, I think you were pretty young in 2009. Were you training on Wall Street then, or what were you doing?
In 2009, yes, I was actually just
yeah.
starting to really start teaching classes. So I think 20 was in 2008 when I came to New York City.
From where?
I grew up in Connecticut. So I grew up in Connecticut for the
okay.
first 18 years of my life. But then I went to Ohio, to Bowling Green State University to do my undergrad, where actually I studied cultural studies. Technically, my degree is in popular culture studies.
Cool.
Yet I've worked in finance the last
Which makes you
8
kind of a
years.
historian as well.
Well,
Cultural
yeah.
studies is history.
Yeah, basically the course I was taking was applied anthropology and sociology, but applied to popular culture. So this
Yeah.
gave me a good appreciation for how values transmit in society and how values evolve. And then in 2007, 2008, I became really interested in economics. A huge part because I became a libertarian because of the Ron Paul revolution.
Exactly.
And-
Yeah.
And then studying economics gave me an appreciation for motivation and why individuals make choices. So knowing how people's values form from my studies of anthropology and sociology and understanding how people act on those values through my study of economics, it's given me a deep appreciation for how the world works, how an economy grows, how do relationships form, how do people become happy. And
So
that's
how people can become happy. So you're whose position will you be taking? Assuming you get elected.
I would be taking the position of Chuck Schumer, who actually was one of the biggest champions of the Wall Street bailouts when the crisis happened in 2008. He's also voted for pretty much the Iraq War.
Of course he was. Sure.
Yeah, he's gotten millions and millions of dollars of Wall Street donations. There's actually a really good article from a website called Counterpunch that you guys should read called The Culture of Corruption that really sort of documents Chuck Schumer's vibe. But he's also voted for interventions, voted for the Defense of Marriage Act, and then just flipped on all these issues when the polls changed. So he's a politician who just follows polls, doesn't follow principle. So I always say vote principle, not power.
Yeah, and he's been there how long?
For a long time. And he'll be the Senate Majority Leader more than likely if he wins this year. So there's a lot on the line.
Oh my gosh. So it's time for some new blood, I would think. New blood and new ideas in Washington. Let's see. So what was exactly your entry point into libertarianism?
Well, basically, actually, it was Ron Paul. It was the debate where Ron Paul confronted Giuliani. That just sort of, at that point, I was actually a staunch Democrat. I voted for Kerry in 2004, and I was very way to the left. Basically, I took everything Michael Moore said as absolute fact.
Oh my gosh.
And then Ron Paul just shook all that up, and I started looking into it, doing research, reading up on history.
I have a neat documentary about Michael Moore called Manufacturing Dissent. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen it yet, but
I'll lend
maybe
it
I'll
to
make
you.
some time to check it out.
Yeah. So you have some interesting endorsements.
Yes, basically, it's a unique year because my Republican opponent, Wendy Long, who ran in 2012 against Kristen Gillibrand. She lost in 2012 by the largest margin in New York history, and is still hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from that campaign. So, and then this year, she's basically embraced the Trump agenda. Even most recently, actually, basically linking the existence of a mosque in Syracuse to crime and poverty, basically implying the presence of a mosque brings crime and poverty. So basically, this sort of Trumpian attitude has basically
base populism.
Yeah, and then basically has
not any ideals or vision, or just populism appealing to the emotions.
It has created an environment.
Demagoguery.
Yes, but has created an environment where Republicans don't want to vote for Wendy Long. So actually, I've been getting endorsements from Republican assemblymen. 3 Republican assemblymen and 1 Republican committeeman have endorsed the campaign. But I've also gotten, one of my major values on this campaign is tolerance. I mean, actually, if you take a look at a lot of the marketing materials, you see there it says markets, peace, individualism, tolerance. So basically, on that note, I've approached and have been reaching out to the transgender community, which is a community I care a lot about because I have a lot of friends who are transgender and people who are close to me who are transgender, and I've gotten endorsements from leaders in the transgender community. So when's the last time you've heard a candidate getting endorsements from Ted Cruz conservatives and leaders in the transgender community on the same day?
Beautiful. Listen, our director tells us we have about 4 or 3 minutes left, but why don't we turn this into a
Lightning round?
No, into a longer show. Instead of doing 13 minutes, why don't we do a full 30. Why don't we do a full 27 minutes?
Okay.
A full 27 minutes on this, so we can cover some more ideas.
Sure, I got a lot to say.
Okay, good. On the endorsements. Also, excuse me, Chelsea, could you hand me the poster that's in the bag there, in my black bag? This is also a presidential. Thank you. We're a little informal on Hardfire TV, free speech television. So no worries. This is also a presidential election year, obviously.
Yes.
And we have Gary Johnson and William Weld as the presidential candidates.
And that's the beauty of the election, because basically the dynamic you have in the presidential election is people don't. You basically, this year, the 2 major parties have given you a choice between corruption and crazy, and people don't really want to vote for either. So basically, the Libertarian Party.
The corruption that came to the fore with the bailouts after the. We're going to go for another 13 minutes. So give us another 13 minutes, okay? Okay, thank you.
But bottom line is basically
corruption and what did you say?
Corruption and crazy. So basically, the two-party system has given us a choice between corruption and crazy.
Yeah.
And the Libertarian Party is that third option. Well, you don't have to choose corruption or crazy.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing about my particular Senate race is that the two-party system did it again, just like in the presidential race. They're giving you a choice between corruption and crazy. And people don't want to choose between corruption and crazy. People are tired of that choice.
Yeah.
And that's why it's been an interesting race for Gary Johnson, but it's also been an interesting race for myself. One of the few other Libertarian candidates who's getting endorsements from Republicans and parties on the right who are tired of the choice of corruption and crazy from the two major parties.
And what about the argument, though, don't vote for the Libertarians or the Greens or somebody because it's throwing your vote away? I know this is an issue that's popular now, and we should address that. Just by the way, here's the Gary Johnson campaign poster.
There's Gary Johnson.
Yeah, I'm originally from the state of New Mexico, so he's, but I had left the state by the time he became governor twice, and he vetoed many spending bills, but he also let people out of jail for victimless crime, right?
Yeah.
And
he has a great record.
And he pardoned them for victimless crime, let them out of jail, and then he didn't turn people into the Homeland Security and tell them to go back to Latin America and stuff like that. He was pro-immigration, right?
Yeah, he basically had a great record for 2 years. His vice presidential candidate, William Weld, also had two terms over there in Massachusetts, and both of them left their states in a situation where they both had huge popularity even after leaving their states as governor. So
and I remember Weld. I remember Weld, and he turned he turned the Massachusetts around Boston into Silicon Valley East, right? A lot of you're big into the .com and the internet revolution too.
I'm a
on
big
the forefront.
techie,
Yeah.
No, I definitely love technology, making websites, doing podcasts, doing all that kind of stuff.
You're a millennium, right?
I guess I think I am a millennial.
Are you? I don't know how that's defined.
I'm not sure where the cutoff is.
I don't know.
I'm 31, so if a 31-year-old currently is a millennial, then I'm a millennial, and and that's another reason why I think people need to consider
I'm not a
me.
baby boomer. I'm too late to be a baby boomer. Maybe.
But a solid reason to consider me for Senate is because is that youth, because right now we don't have anyone in the Senate to represent that younger generation at all.
Exactly.
So regardless.
Yeah, about throwing your vote away was my question.
But yes,
let's address that.
So regarding
voting for Gary Johnson or William Weld, who had proven records, and then newer people, who are libertarians, and we are gaining momentum, but why? If what are your chances of winning, do you think, honestly, and would people be throwing their vote away, and what's wrong with that?
There's a couple different arguments for voting for a third party, whether it's Libertarian, Green, Constitution Party. Here's the case.
Socialist, communist.
There's all sorts of different third parties, but
be careful, they might throw you in indefinite detention.
Reason number one is they can't win without your vote. So at the bottom line is, if you don't vote for them, they can't win. So if you sit there and say you're wasting your vote, well, you're basically making it impossible for them to ever win. That's reason number one. Reason number two, it does have an effect whether they win or lose. Let's go back to the Nader race. Everyone basically has a lot. Sometimes you see Democrats who have a lot of hostility towards Nader because they think Nader gave Bush the election in 2000. Now, actual numbers say that actually Nader did not cost that election. Even if you take deep down the numbers, if you assume that every Nader vote went to Al Gore, he still wouldn't necessarily won that election outright. But that's assuming a lot of those Nader votes weren't necessarily basically going to be Gore votes.
Right. Maybe people wouldn't have showed up in the polls in the first place.
Correct.
Same thing with the Libertarians, right? We're going to hopefully draw people who wouldn't come in.
And we're currently drawing more from Hillary. But the point is, what happened afterwards...
You mean Hillary Clinton?
Hillary Clinton.
Oh, okay.
But basically what happened was, afterwards, the Democratic Party felt like they needed to appeal to that progressive voice more so they don't avoid a situation like 2000 again.
Right.
So the Democratic Party became more progressive, and in 2008 ran a more progressive candidate. When Hillary Clinton ran against Obama won, which is clearly sort of more progressive appealing candidate of the two.
What do you mean by progressive? When I think of progressive, I think of it as progress towards socialism. Or
Agreed.
Progress towards a larger state.
Agreed.
We used to call that a liberal. Now, an American liberal.
Yeah.
Now we call it a progressive.
Agreed. But I mean,
in order to bring back the liberal word to its original meaning, as opposed to calling the Democrats liberals, we now call them progressives. In order to get ownership back of the language.
It's just
the word liberal.
Bottom line is, right now, if you talk to young people who identify in the left, they refer to themselves as progressives. They believe in sort of that social safety net and bigger role for government. But because this third-party candidate did well, that party absorbed more of their values and spoke more to their values. So same thing could possibly happen. Even if the Libertarian Party candidate does win, be sure that one of those two parties, Democrats or Republican, we're going to make appeal to that vote and those values because they don't want to leave votes on the table. And basically, if they know you are going to vote for them, they will just continue saying the same things because it doesn't matter. You're going to vote for them anyways. So the party's always geared towards the people who may not vote, because those are the votes that make a difference. So the only way for your vote to make a difference is if your vote isn't a guarantee, isn't something that is a sure thing. And then also the third thing is that if you do want third parties to eventually win, if you don't vote for them, you can't knock down the barriers against them. So for example, New York, it's votes that we need to knock down those barriers so that way third parties can be stronger in New York. For example, the Libertarian Party. For a party to have ballot access here in New York, it needs 50,000 votes during a gubernatorial year. So if you don't vote for us, then we don't get that access, which gives us the inability to grow and become a major force within New York politics.
How about this idea? So here you are, you're an individual, you go into the voting booth, and then you've been told over and over again, your vote doesn't matter. So why not? You're there alone with, I mean, I remember when I was living in Washington, D.C., and they had a vote on the death penalty, right? And so I'm not going to tell you how I voted, but, I'm sure you know how I voted, but here I was faced with this decision, myself and my vote, whether or not you believe in democracy in a huge nation state like the United States, which then provides politicians taking advantage of you for their own special interests, whether they do that out of their own belief that they know better, or just because you need the campaign money, right? Special interest for the campaign money. But there you are voting, and if you don't like the people, if you don't like Hillary Clinton, or if you don't like Donald Trump or what they stand for, why should you vote for them? I mean, what does that do to us as individuals?
The only vote that's truly wasted.
The scare tactic.
The only vote that's truly wasted.
Wasting your time.
Is a vote that's not for someone that you truly believe in.
Yeah. I only vote for people I know these days, which is a big change over the last 10 years. I've been involved with libertarianism since I moved to New York about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And you moved to New York how long ago?
Now like 8 years ago.
Yeah. So you've met Gary Johnson and
Yeah,
William
I've met
Weld.
Gary Johnson, especially over this year several times, whether it be at the state convention here for New York, the national convention, and then the 2 town halls. I got to be in the audience for both of the CNN town halls.
And how about William Weld? Have you met him? Did you have spoken with him?
I met him, spoke with him very briefly. But I haven't had as much time to speak with him as I had with Gary.
Yeah, William Weld, he was nominated to be the ambassador to Mexico, but got borked, right, because of his position on the drug war. He like Gary Johnson are very against the drug war. In other words, putting people in prison for victimless crime. And Weld was nominated 10, 15 years ago to be the ambassador to Mexico. But now, 10, 15 years later, things have changed. He probably wouldn't get borked, in other words, not confirmed by the Senate for his views now, like he would have 10 or 15 years ago. So we are becoming, at least in that case, a more classically liberal society.
And that's the thing. That's why it's important to vote for people who do have foresight. So a lot of people say the things that I'm saying are sometimes bold or challenging the status quo a little too much. But here's the thing. I mean, Weld and Johnson both did that, especially on the drug war and on other issues years ago. And now they're considered sort of centrist. So I can only hope that 15 years from now, people will look at me and be like, man, Alex is really centrist.
I know. That would be. Well, at first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and then they steal your ideas.
Hopefully, I would love it if everyone stole my ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it.
Well, that gets into copyright and things like that. But can you speak a little about the election laws and why we have a solidly two-party political system, which gives us this hateful and abrasive us versus them populist political rhetoric and constant war? Why is it so difficult?
Basically, bottom line, I can tell you this from personal experience this year, is that a large part of election is fundraising. Basically, if you're not, I need to get 3.5 million votes around there to win. I'm not going to be able to shake 3.5 million hands if I spent every day calling everybody, going to every event within the state. So basically what happens is that you have to do digital outreach, do advertising, and all that costs money.
Yeah.
But there's other things you need money for. So for example, one of the things that costs a lot of money for third parties is getting on the ballot. So the problem is, for third parties, we spend so much money getting on the ballot that we don't have money for the outreach that's needed to be competitive in a general election.
Right. So the entry barriers to entry are high. What I heard is that the League of Women Voters,
I just completed their survey today,
used to regulate the elections. Then it got taken over by the Federal Election Committee.
Well, what happened is that I think they used to organize the debates.
Oh, the debates.
They used to organize the presidential debates, and then what happened is that I don't remember specifically what happened, but eventually both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, they created this independent corporation called the Commission on Presidential Debates. They basically it's a cartel for presidential debates, where basically they decide who gets in the debates that they organize. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't organize other debates. TV channels, independent organizations can organize debates.
I see that the CNN has been doing this
the
town hall things.
Yeah.
Very good. Where if you watch CNN, like I do at the airport, it says, Clinton, Trump, and Johnson. So it's almost. I had not seen that such
But
prioritization of
my
libertarians.
thing is that for third parties and libertarians, if we want to change the dynamic, we can't be hoping that their institutions created by the two-party system, will eventually let us in. We have to create our own institutions, create our own organizations that create debates and programming and whatnot. So
like we're doing here on Brooklyn Free Speech Television.
Exactly.
With Hardfire. So, okay. If you win, what would be your first proposed legislation, and what committees would you prefer to serve on?
I would like
in Washington D.C.
I mean, I'm.
Have you been to Washington? It's a very boring place, Alex.
I've been there a few times.
Oh my gosh.
But basically, there's three main areas that I want to address while I'm in there.
Yeah.
Okay, one is the cost of living. Okay, so basically, I want to propose ideas to roll back government involvement in education, housing, and healthcare, because those are the biggest centers of our cost of living that are eating up people's incomes.
Which are all highly regulated by the government.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Two, once you can lower the cost of government by addressing those areas, and at the same time address the cost of living, you can also lower taxation, but you have to cut spending. So I do want to. There's a list of GAO of weapon systems that are never going to be battle ready, stuff like that.
Government Accounting Office, very good. Government Accountability
and
Office.
And then number three, address prohibition. Basically rolling back any kind of prohibition that's out there, because prohibition only makes things more dangerous and less transparent. And far as all of these
incarcerating people is very expensive.
And far as all of these different policy areas, I go in depth with them in several videos of policy proposals that you can see on my website, alexmercedforny.com, where you can see all my policy proposals and me making the case for them in depth, so that way you can see that I am thoughtful. Basically, there's three things that I'm running on far as what makes me different than other politicians. That I'm going to be thoughtful, transparent, and accessible.
Living in your office like some senators and congressmen do?
I might have to. I'm a very frugal person. I'm fiscally conservative in my own life. I'm fiscally conservative in my campaign, and I'm going to be fiscally responsible when I get to Washington, D.C. So at the end of the day, you have Wendy Long, a Republican who has not been fiscally responsible with her campaign and is in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So if you want to send someone who's going to be fiscally responsible with your money in Congress, you want to find someone who's fiscally responsible with their own money.
Clean up your own room before you clean up the world.
You got it.
So how much time do we have left? We're done? Okay, Alex Merced, thank you very much for coming on Hardfire Television, Brooklyn Free Speech Television, and best of luck on your campaign.
No problem.
So everyone, please look for Alex when you vote in New York. When?
It would be November 8th, and the website's alexmercedforny.com.
Okay. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Hardfire Television. Please stay tuned for another episode.
Hello. Do you know that there are more than 2 candidates running for president this year? You don't have to settle for the customary douchebags. Here's a website down here someplace. Let's see what the website is. You can go to the website of the Libertarian Party, lp.org.